Hello everybody and welcome back to On the Couch with ECD. My name is Shamaine Bueta and I'll be facilitating your session today. This is video number 3. I hope you've watched 1 and 2 and that they have been able to help you in some way, fashion or form. During the lockdown we decided to do these so that we could help with a few continual professional training tips for our teachers in the ECD sector, as well as helping some moms and dads while they are invigilating teachers at home. So today's video, I just want to quickly go to our video, share screen. Here we go. Let's enlarge this from the current slide. Right, so today we're going to be talking about, we were all created for a purpose, but during our lifespan, we are programmed to fail. So created to succeed, but programmed to fail. So welcome to On the Couch video 3. Our topics for today, there's some more other aeroplane passing by. Our topics for today is, I am beautifully and wonderfully made. I want you to realize that we aren't little robot duplicates. We physically are individuals that are made by God to have a purpose. We're not all wrapped in the same gift wrapping, but we are made with purpose. We are all created to succeed. None of us are created to fail, but unfortunately life happens and then we are squeezed and pressed from all sides, and that causes that we fail in certain elements in our life. So I'm going to be discussing the key factors that cause this. Fixing the potholes in your needlework. For those of you who like to knit or to crochet, we're going to look what happens when you knit one, skip one, two together, right? Some developmental milestones. We're looking at a few different milestones. We can't do all of them in one session, so I'm going to be looking at the ages of 2 to 5 years and only gross and fine motor skills as well as language. So we'll do cognitive and the others on another day. Why babies should crawl. I think it's important that you know that if certain of your milestones are not in place, that results delays in other areas. So we're going to be looking at that. Important connections and what happens when those connections aren't made. So we're looking at emotions and then the sense of touch. And then in the end, I'm going to introduce you to the UNICEF ALDA curriculum link so that you guys can go and look at our new national curriculum. So today we're going to start off by watching a video. And as it's playing, I will be discussing what's happening. Right, so this is conception. This is sperm going into the vaginal channel, and it's on its way to the egg, the mommy's egg. And all of these guys are in an amazing race to get there first. So it's not by chance. You were chosen from the beginning with purpose. So this is the only sperm that penetrates the egg. And then this egg starts to get fertilized and it starts to grow. So this zygote, as it's known, multiplies. It falls into the tummy of the mommy, into the urethra. And here it forms a little sac in which a baby will grow. Isn't this amazing? This is actual footage. So yes, and here this baby is already growing. So this is the life of a baby. Look at that. Looks like a little alien at this point in time. But here already this baby can hear. So they are hearing. And if mommy is upset, 48 hours after mommy's calmed down, baby is still upset. So what do they do while they are developing? First of all the axons and the dendrites that I spoke about here, they are formed in the brain. And the most amazing factor is you are born with more brain cells than you die with. So here you'll be the most clever that you've ever been in your life. And then as you progress and all the stimuli comes in the world, then you will at the end of the day have brain cells that die and brain cells that then are connected. So these babies are developed with, there's the ear, the cochlea, inside the mommy's tummy. And they burp and they have hiccups and they kick and they are learning to develop their muscles. You will also see that at a certain age, their bones start to become more dense. The only bone that stays soft is the one up here in the head, so that when they go through the birthing channel, there's the bones growing, go through the birthing channel at the end of the day, that the head can be squashed a little bit while it's going out. This is what connects you to your mommy. They realize they have fingers, they touch and feel. They've actually seen footage of babies clapping hands and laughing because they learn how to laugh and they frown when you play music. So they move around until the space becomes a little bit limited. And here they like to jump on your bladder and move any of mommy's internal organs. So this is a wonder. Your chromosomes are not like anybody else's chromosomes. So after 9 months, inside this tummy, it is time for this baby to come out. I really want you to notice something. I think it's quite crucial at this point in time. When you had sex, so that conception could take place, you moved. When this baby had to go through the tubes of fallopius, the fallopian tubes, it moved. When the zygote had to split, it moved. When it started growing, it moved. Inside your tummy, it moves. Coming out, it moves. And what I'm trying to say with this is we come to a point where we go and we say, you know what, children, it's time for you to sit still. And this is absolutely wrong. We have to admire God's creation, and we have to realize that He made us able to move with a purpose. Right. So here are some Bible verses that you can go and have a look at that talks about how beautifully and wonderfully we are made. Every chromosome is made with purpose. Your name is in the hand of is written in God's hand. So Proverbs 18 verse 21, Romans 12 verse 2, Deuteronomy 30 verse 19, and Philippians is going to help you get there. Right. Now let's go and see what is going to happen if we have unfortunately been created and we are stuck in a family where there's a lot of negative input, or we get to school and we are overthrown with more negative things than positive things. So this is called our emotional piggyback. And we are going to look at the right way to approach children and the wrong way, and what happens that causes this in a child's life. Because remember, later on, we're going to look at emotions as one of the potholes and how we can fix it. So this happened, what do we do now? So here we go. You're created to be successful and succeed, but you are programmed to fail. So here, children sit in front of the TV the whole day and all they watch is rubbish. So what you put in is what you're going to get out. So suddenly this child starts to swear because there's a repetition of swear words. So limiting the time that they watch television or watching what they are watching will help you get a better output at the end of the day. So rubbish in, rubbish out. Remember, what you put in is what you're going to get out. And then for smaller children, it is extremely important that you understand that it's not only words that hurt them. The expressions on your face and the way you move your body can also hurt them. And you are much taller than them as adults, so you need to get down to their level, especially when you're upset. So instead of towering over them and being upset from above, bend down to their level, speak to them in a fashion that they understand. You will see that children listen to the tone of your voice. As I showed you there, they heard mommy inside the tummy, so they recognize mom's voice. After being in that space the whole time in all of those fluids, they do have a bond with mommy, not only through the umbilical cord, but also through the sound of their voice, the beating of mom's heart, and the smell, mom's smell as well. So with small children, words have a huge impact. And anything that is negative has an impact on their emotional piggyback. So I quickly want to explain the piggyback. Here I said the right method is to deposit. I explained it the other day, where you ka-ching, put money into the bank. So you are praising and reinforcing. I'm so proud of you. I can see you tried so hard. I know it's not straight, but it is the best that you've done this far. So keep on trying. You're going to really get this at the end of the day. Instead of saying, it's the ugliest picture I've ever seen. Can't you cut straight? Really? I was 2 and I could do this. So be careful, tone of voice, body language, and also the words that you are saying will either deposit into this emotional piggy bank or withdraw from it. And I want to tell you, you all have bank accounts, right? If you don't have enough money in that bank account, if there's not enough positive reinforcement on the inside of this child's emotional piggy bank, they break, they go bankrupt. And you can try and fix this little one as much as you want. It just can't hold the amount of money that it should have held in the beginning. So please be cautious and careful that you don't allow them to watch rubbish, see rubbish, listen to rubbish the whole day. We actually did an exercise at our school. I said that the children have a tendency to change, especially their behavior, into violent behavior due to the clothes that they wear. I know that sounds ridiculous, but rubbish in, rubbish out. So when John Cena was still much on the scene and we had all of these karate people and kicking and whatnot, we saw that on our incident ledgers at school, the children tended to hurt each other much more. And then they started wearing Batman and Incredible Hulk t-shirts. And then they would come to school and they would kick and hurt and chop, and they would do everything that they've seen on television that is also now depicted on their t-shirts. So they would have these vicious faces like the Hulk, etc. And I asked the parents to help me with this so that we could test this. And we said, will you please pack into their school bags, if you're putting this t-shirt on, a plain blank t-shirt with no pictures on, if you could help me with that. And the parents agreed. So we did that. We had an extra set of clothes in the bag, and then we had this set of clothes. And what we did is we have different classes, different age groups, is when a child became very violent or vicious, or they lashed out at their friends and they were uncontrollable, their crocodile was loose, the teacher would take them to the restroom and just put another set of clothes on. And I cannot tell you, in a span of 2 weeks, the difference that it made in our school and in that book that we had to keep a ledger in to say how many incidents and accidents we've had. Just by changing the input, what they see, what they hear, into something positive, we change their behavior. And there I realized that what you put in is truly what you get out. We also made one class just blank and the other class more pictures, stories, you know, the more aggressive stories. And there were lots of incidents in the one class and almost none in the other class. So small little things with children have an impactful difference that it makes in your life. So be careful that this child has always got a healthy bank account, that they're not bankrupt because you as teacher or you as parent are negative, reinforcing the negative, focusing on the negative, because then they will become negative children and they will always criticize and see the bad in others. Now, identifying and addressing the delay is number 2 here. In my experience in the past over 20 years in education, parents do not want to admit when they see there's something wrong with their little one. If they're not developmentally on par, or if a teacher points out they need to go for an assessment, or they'd like them to have a report from an occupational therapist, then they take the children out of the school, or they say, no, I want to move to another class. My child does not get along with this teacher. But that's one of the major problems. The younger the child, the more moldable that little branch is. The older it is, the stiffer the branch is, and you cannot mold that tree. So it takes so much effort the older you are, and it's easy the younger you are. So if I could advise parents here at all, and also teachers, is the way you approach a parent with this. You can't moan, and then just unpack that there's something wrong with the child. And remember, you are not qualified to diagnose children with problems. And that's why you should refer them. You will see the red flags and you will know because you are taught to do that. But then you have to have a relationship with the parent first of all. And you must show the parent that this is going to be in the best interest of their child. Because the connotation that parents have is my child goes to the doctor must give them medication, which is not the case. In all cases, as a teacher, I would like to avoid Ritalin, Concerta, Sarba, Narvu number 2, any of those I would like to avoid and see if we could reprogram the brain so it's non-intrusive, non-invasive. So it's important to address the delays. So you need to keep a good record, and you also need to be willing to identify them. Go to somebody that can assess this little one and come back with something so that the teacher at school knows what they're working with, so that we can go, like I said, and remold the clay. It's now molded into this shape and it's wrong. So give us the opportunity as professional teachers to go and remold if we know what we're working with. Otherwise, we have to, by means of elimination, say, okay, it can't be that. I think it's this, but it can't be that. And it takes us so much longer, and we could have focused our energy on fixing the problem. So identifying will help us address the delay. Overprotectiveness and not protective at all. You have parents that they just don't care. The big baby plays with the little baby. The one has a 2-ton truck slams into the little baby's head, and the mom just said, oh, he has to get used to it. That's life. That is not protective at all. You need to show that child that you will be there to protect them. Otherwise, they feel unsafe and insecure. And you must know the boundaries there, because he could really get hurt in that instance. And they will never admit to it, but they don't ever see their fathers cry, very, very seldom. And that's wrong. I don't know where in the South African history that came in, that men aren't supposed to cry, but it's wrong, because we were made to be emotional. We're not as emotional, men are not as emotional as women. We are made a little bit differently, but they also have emotions and they must be able to express those. So you don't say to a child, you're a sissy or whatever because they're crying. You just help them through the emotion, and it would be better at the end of the day to be a little bit more protective and not protective at all. And then I said overprotectiveness. Here we have those helicopter moms. Everything that's happening, the mom has to be there. And they come and they drop the child off at the beginning of the year in the class. It's a new teacher and they're clinging to that baby on their hip. And the teacher wants to take baby and mommy is holding on tight. And then you kind of have to pry the baby out of mommy's arms, and she wants to stay to see that baby's okay. That is the worst thing that you as a parent could do. Why am I saying this? Your baby knows you from before birth. They know your facial expressions. They know you exceptionally well. And they can see you and sense your fear. So now you drop this baby off with the caregiver and you show the baby, I don't trust the woman you are leaving me with. You should reinforce, I'm coming back. I love you. Your teacher is going to take good care of you. I trust her, and I will see you later this afternoon. Even if they don't understand it, saying it builds a bond of trust. And if they hold on too tight, you pass the baby over to teacher. So that teacher can dry the tears, teacher can build a bond, and because they're going to see them for a very long time at the school every day. The longer you hold on, the longer you hover, the longer it's going to take this child to become independent, and the more difficulties we will experience at school. I will not ever say, I said smell is important. I don't know if you know this, but if you meet the person that you fall in love with, you actually smelled them and you saw them before your heart fell in love with them. So you like the way they smell. So we don't just like somebody, we just don't like the way they smell. So if you have a school where you have 2 3 to 4 year classes and you have a 3 to 4 year old child and that child's been crying constantly, you've tried everything, you've switched mom and dad to drop off in the morning, everything that you've done hasn't helped in a space of around about 21 days, then rather move the child to the other 3 to 4 class. Maybe your baby just doesn't like the way the teacher smells. That might sound absolutely ridiculous, but remember, there are so many things about our senses and our organs and how we function and how we perceive things that we don't know, that you should consider that as well. Okay, so that's overprotective moms. Just back off a bit. You don't want us to take their shoes off. They're very expensive shoes. But let me tell you, falling from a jungle gym because you didn't have the grip of your toes or feeling the jungle gym's bars under your bare foot is more expensive than putting the shoes into the school bag. So at our school, when it is summertime and it is nice and warm outside, all of our little ones' shoes are taken off before we play outside. So they are taught to put it into their little pigeonholes or into their bags so that it goes home, and then they are allowed to play outside. Also, an important factor that you might not know, but most magnesium is taken in from soil through the soles of your feet. So children who have magnesium deficiencies, 1, 2, 3-year-olds, that is where it comes from. So I really want to encourage you to let those children go without shoes a little bit more, because there's method in the madness. Underestimating and overestimating children. Oh, this is a big no-no. You do not know what that child is capable of. You cannot think that they do not understand. You cannot underestimate their skills or their abilities. And you cannot tell them that you are too young to do this. You should rather say, when your muscles are a little bit stronger, we will try again, instead of saying, no, you are too young to do this, because you are labeling this child, and as long as they're young, you don't know what young is in their terms. As young as they're young, they don't want to do that activity because my mom said I was too young to do this, or this is too dangerous. So suddenly there's a fear. So you've embedded a fear into this child's life, because now you can't go down the slide because you are going to get hurt. You must be scared of the slide. So you've embedded a fear into their life. So don't underestimate them. And then on the other side, especially teachers, don't overestimate them. Guide them. But if you see that they're not coping, take a step back. Meet the child where they're at. Don't say all your friends were able to do it. Why can't you? Because we are beautifully and wonderfully made. My chromosomes are not your chromosomes. My fingerprint is not your fingerprint. How I think and feel is not how you think and feel. So do never ever label a child and say you're not able, look, your friends can. So that's underestimation and overestimation. Good. So our next factor that we're going to look at, I'd like you to look at this little photo down here. If you look very carefully, you will see there's lots of holes. So this person didn't follow a pattern. They knit one, skip one, two together, whatever they did wrong. And now we've got these potholes in the needlework. There's nothing that can go correct that unless we take another needle and a thread and we sew this together, or we pull all of the stitches out to where the first mistake happened and we start re-knitting over here. Those are the two ways that we can fix it. There's no other way to fix this. Okay, so fixing the potholes in your needlework, night fears. We have children around about 2 and then older from there that are extremely scared of the dark. Now, I don't know. I did this with my son when he was a little boy. I went to his room because he was petrified at night. And I lay on his bed and I was listening. We've got a zinc roof, one of those corrugated zinc iron roofs. And it was cracking and creaking like crazy because it expands in the day from the heat, and at night when it's cool, it shrinks again, right? So it has all these noises. And then there was an owl in the tree outside, and it made a very weird noise. And then there was a cat, 2 cats next door fighting. And I lay on his bed and I listened to what he was listening to when he was awake. So he can't see. His vision is now constricted by it being night. And he hears meow, woo, woo. It's petrifying. As an adult, I was quite scared. So you can imagine. So what I did, we did a sensory session with him a few times. I lay on his bed at night. And when we heard a sound, I would ask him, do you know what makes that noise? And then he said, no. He was about 3, almost turning 3. And I said, that's an owl. And God made owls to come out at night so that they can catch their food, and they have big eyes. And when they speak to each other, they are very far from each other. So they make this whoo, whoo sound, which is a big sound. And I told him about the creaking of the roof when we heard the next sound and a dog barking in the distance. And the next time I lay with him in his bed, I asked him, can you remember the sounds? What's that? And he said, an owl. And I was quite shocked to realize that he remembered what we spoke about. But after a few sessions like that, he never came into my room at night scared anymore. He wasn't scared of the dark either. We did shadow puppets where we did these, you put them against the wall and you do them. And I showed him he has a shadow, and at night there are shadows. Explaining it to the child makes a whole new world open for them, and it takes away the fear. I didn't want to install fear into his life and allow him to sleep in my bedroom because I was uncomfortable. The next thing is a white noise. Now, if you take a fan and you blow the fan against a wall, that's called a white noise. It's a background noise, but it drowns out some of the noise. So some children work very well with a fan, not on them because they get a lot of sinus and stuff. But even in the winter, a little fan blowing somewhere could become a white noise that drowns out the other sounds. And then for some children, for a space of time, putting on a nightlight is a good solution. If they become too old, then you have to go into sensory sessions to make sure the nightlight can go away. My husband still sleeps with a fan on, no matter if it's winter, snow, if it's hailing outside, whatever the case might be, there's always a fan because he cannot sleep without a white noise. So night fears, quite easy to handle. It's just your approach, the way you handle it. Fussy eaters, those kiddies that don't want to eat this and I don't want that, and you can see on their facial expression that they're not enjoying their food, and they'll have any excuse not to eat what they're eating. Remember, there are two categories. First category we have here is taste. Your tongue has a lot to do with your taste. You have these little polyps on your tongue that sweet and sour and bitter and all of that is on there. And I can promise you that what you taste and what I taste are two different things. Some people are very taste sensitive, and you kind of have to ease them into new tastes. So in the preschools, this is something that you should focus on, not just touch, but taste. They should be exposed to salt and sweet and different tastes, and look at allergies here as well. But in many cases, it's got nothing to do with taste. It's all about the texture. Now, if I take an apple and I bite it, that crunch, some apples are great, they're crunchy. Some of them have a kind of a, we say in Afrikaans, melerig. It feels like it gets stuck to your teeth. Same thing, it's an apple, but I can't eat the melerige apple. I don't enjoy that. So I'd rather enjoy the crunchy apple. So there's lots of textures, bananas, mushrooms. You have to see if you can help your child identify different textures. As I said with the sensory sessions, the more you expose them gradually to it, the more they'll be able to eat and they won't be that fussy. But the fussy eating also has another facet. It's not just taste, it's not just texture. It might be all about not just likes and dislikes, but what the body wants. Some foods we are allergic to, and inherently your body would not want you to take it in. So you might feel like you're going to throw up. It triggers that feeling. So if you could have a short little journal that you keep just for yourself, even on your cell phone if you don't like books, where you say every time he eats a banana, this is his reaction. Then in a while you'll know that we either have to go look at taste, at texture, or we might look at an allergy. So there are lots of factors here. Fussy eaters, the more you give them the opportunity to taste and feel and touch and have their senses around foods and make eating an exciting experience for them, hot and cold and rough and coarse and soft and squishy and wet and watery, all of those are going to help this child not to be a fussy eater. If they're already a fussy eater, you can already integrate sensory sessions where you do a lot of that with them. Do fear factor challenges and see, I know you don't like this, but let's see if you'll be able to eat a mushroom, for example. And then massage and exercise is a very good one. The space of the mouth is full of muscles. Some children can't eat. They can't drink through a straw. They've been eating too liquidy kind of foods like purity that's very liquidized. And then they can't take in rice. They look like they've got a gag reflex when they're eating rice. So massage and exercise will help with that, and then slow integrations into making it coarser, not go from purity to whole grain rice. You'll have to blend it a little bit, squash it a little bit, and then make it a little bit bigger till they'll be able to integrate it. And then the reintroduction into various textures. They've sometimes forgotten that they don't like this, or that they can't remember why they don't like it. So every now and again, if your child, say, doesn't like eating a pear, give them a small piece of pear, not knowing that it's a piece of pear, and you'll be surprised that sometimes they'll start eating pears again. Touch and taste therapy is a good one. All of this you could read up on. That's what I did. I went and I Googled, and I found every therapist out there that I thought was reputable, and I looked until I was able to answer my own questions. Google became my best friend, okay? And then those children that can't sit still, there might be reasons that they can't sit still. If you haven't identified, as I said, those reasons yet, it's going to remain something. It will remain something that's going to bother you constantly. If they can't sit still, first determine do they go to bed at night feeling tired, and do they wake up in the morning feeling tired? If that is the case, their brain never shut down at night and they didn't rest. So they are agitated, their skin and everything is overstimulated. You know how you feel when you don't sleep. That's how they're feeling. So then we'll be looking at maybe changing bath times so that they have a little bit more of a relaxation period before going into bedtime. Or putting on calming music, which you wouldn't normally do at your home. It's something like Enya that is soft and very calming to help them to have a better sleep pattern at night. Grounding techniques, we have dominance, right? So if I'm right-handed, I'm right-hand dominant. This is my weaker hand. In a class setup, if I can't get a child to sit still and to focus, I give them something to hold in the non-dominant hand, the weaker hand. A little toy, a little soft cushion, a little something. And the moment I hold that, it's as if their ears are better and they can focus and hear better. So grounding techniques work exceptionally well. The placement in the class, we have to check their dominance. Are they visual learners, auditive learners, kinesthetic learners? And then where would we put you? In the front of the class, in the middle of the class, at the back, to the right or to the left? We could do a session on that another day. But putting them into the right place due to their dominance would help put them in a quieter setting where they'll be able to focus. Cognitive awareness, we have to understand that you can reboot the brain. If you've ever heard about brain gain therapy, I became a brain gain neurofeedback therapist. I did the whole course. I did quite a few courses. As I said, I was hungry for information, so I did a lot of courses. But after doing this, I realized that the brain needs oxygenated blood. You need blood that's full of oxygen. And that these veins going down here, these arteries, these big ones, when you are under stress, these arteries are constricted. That means these muscles are pulled up, which constricts these, which constricts the flow of blood, which causes that the brain does not have enough oxygenated blood. And then you feel all fuzzy and you cannot focus. If a child is constantly under stress, muscles are constantly strained, they don't think clearly. They're in a brain fog, in a haze the whole time, and then they can't sit still. You can reboot that. With the older children, you teach them to do an autonomic kind of thing so that the brain responds, so it thinks. Let them count backwards from 100. 100, 99, 98, 22, 21, 20. And the brain will have to pull resources to think again. With the smaller ones, they can recite a rhyme or they can sing a song because the brain has to think of the words, autonomically bringing new blood flow and oxygen back to the brain. So you can reboot if you're aware of the cognitive function of the brain. And then for ADD and ADHD learners, proper diagnosis is important. I am so tired of people taking their children to a general GP saying, my teacher says this child has ADHD, please put them on Ritalin. You are ruining that child's life. First of all, Ritalin is a very high scale drug and there's space for it if the child really needs it, but most children don't. So you have created an addict, and they are mainly zombies in our class. They kind of follow you very slowly. If they were properly diagnosed and weighed, the amount of what they were supposed to get, the doctor would have been able to give to them. Now, this year it works, next year it doesn't, so they just increase the dosage. You have to find something else that could help that child through this process, and it doesn't have to be medication. So I would advise Brain Gain. There's lots of therapists throughout South Africa, and if you need information, Google Brain Gain South Africa. So food has a huge impact on ADD, ADHD, children that can't sit still, taste, fussy eaters, all of those. If you eat the wrong types of foods, you are going to have the wrong type of, what do you call it? Stimulation in the brain. Sorry, stimulation in the brain. I know when I did therapy with children, I realized that children with ADHD that have been really diagnosed with ADHD, and that they've been to specialists, had blood tests done, and it has come up that they do have the deficiency and that they will definitely have one of those, have a tendency to love red and yellow foods. These are also the two food colors that have the most impactful effect on your brain. They disliked fish, they loved tomato sauce, they enjoyed bologna, they love red and yellow chips, they only ate red yogurt. Those children, we have to revisit their diet and make as much as possible of it green. So anything that's green oxygenates the blood and is so good for you. And then also giving them some or other omega fish supplement. Please don't give them 3, 6, and 9. A normal omega-3 will be perfect, and it's got to be oily. If it's a little donkey and you put it on a paper and it doesn't leave an oilish mark, please don't use it. It needs to be an oil so that it functions where it's supposed to function. If they don't eat right, they won't sleep well. If they don't sleep well, they might have tendencies that come out that shows ADHD due to allergies, many times food allergies or environmental allergies. And then all of these will trigger the brain. If you eat the wrong food, the brain does not have what it needs to send out the messages as fast as it should. If you eat the wrong food, I told you about the ear. Now this child's not supposed to take in gluten, which comes in cereals, and you give him gluten every day. Now he has sticky, phlegmish kind of secretion in his throat, and he keeps on having a sinus drip, and his nasal cavities are full of sinus, and now we want him to hear properly so that the brain can take the message and move the arm, but he can't because all of this sinus is clogged up here in his ear, and because of what he's eating, it remains clogged, even if you do give them Dazit or any of the other flow mists or the things that the doctors give us to open those sinus channels. So please be aware that ADHD is much more than this child can't sit still, can't concentrate, and is a holy terror in my class. A proper diagnosis will help us to see how we can alleviate allergies, improve sleep, give them a better diet. Green, green, green is the best thing you can do. And then help calm down the brain triggers so that when he is grounded, he's learned new techniques, he can focus even if he does have ADD or ADHD. Right, I hope you're still with me. Good, so I said we're going to look at the developmental milestones from 2 months up to a year first. Now over here, I said it's only an estimation. So moms and dads, if when your baby on the day turns 2 months and he does not coo, there's nothing wrong with your baby. When we get here and there's still no cooing, then we have a problem. So we are looking to identify missing milestones. One of these that's not present. If it's not present, it's something we immediately need to work on so that we don't have to go fix it later. So let's look at speech first. Here's speech. The first thing is around about 2, this baby starts cooing. So they go, and they make sounds. They coo. At 4, they start babbling. So, and they're talking, we don't know what language, but we just know that they're going for gold. At 6 months, they're babbling with consonant sounds. So consonants is, remember we have vowels, A, E, I, O, U, and then we have consonants, which all the others, B, C, D, all the others in the alphabet. So they start babbling using D's, B's, all of those. At 9 months, they understand when you say no, don't do that, no, or I want this, no, they will understand. And then here at 12 months, they really start saying a lot of words. So they will say mama, dada. So they're combining consonants and vowels, and it happens here. And once again, the important factor of these developmental milestones is we're looking for the missing link. If something is missing, if this is a wall with bricks, and I miss babbling with, let's say, pushing up with hands and rolling over here. So everything is colored green except this is white. The building has a hole. I can see from the one side to the other side. When I put something on top of this, here where it says pushing, and I put something else on top of it that's heavy, this side of the building starts conking in. So we call these potholes. And the potholes, just like any others in our South African roads, need to be filled up before the cars can drive on it again. So make sure that when you are looking at your babies from 2 months to 1 year, where are the missing potholes? Go back, fix it. Repetition, find ways to fix what's not there. Gross motor skills, remember we said those are the large muscles. So I'm jumping and I'm rolling and I am swinging, anything with the big muscle groups. Here at 2 months, the main thing for this baby is they're under pressure from gravity after they've come out, after birth. And their main concern here is they need to hold their head up. It will be unsteady. It should be a bit shaky. It won't be totally stiff. But around about 2 months, the head and the neck become stiffer and they can hold it up. At 4 months, they can sit with support. If you hold them up, they don't conk in totally. They do stay up because their core muscles are starting to develop. And you can practice this by lying them flat on their backs, holding just underneath their feet, on their legs, and then softly pushing up and pushing down and pushing up. And don't go too far so that it looks like they're going to throw up the contents of their stomach. It should be an easy movement to help. And then also, if they're a little bit older, we start pulling them up so that the neck doesn't flop. We hold here. Please don't hold here. You can dislocate your child's shoulder and wrist. You hold here, please, instead of on the furthest extension of the limb. And then rolls onto the stomach and back at 4 months. So they are rolling onto the tummy and back. So remember, we are looking for missing milestones. At 6 months, they will push up with their hands. They're starting to push up and they will then roll over. At 9 months, they pull themselves up to stand against something. They will start crawling and they start cruising. That doesn't mean they get onto a ship and they go to Hawaii. Cruising means that they're holding onto something to get them to go somewhere. So they're up and they're holding and trying to move whilst holding. That's cruising. So here at a year, they should be cruising with support. And then that means they want to start walking. Their first steps must happen alone around about here. And here they will start throwing something. If you start giving them a soft ball, they will definitely throw it. Fine motor skills, 2 months. They will follow objects with their eyes. So here we can lie baby on their tummy. They've got to be on their tummy a large portion of the day so that their muscles are pushing up when they try and get off the floor, which helps with the core and the neck stability. With this age baby, small baby, remember to turn the head so they're not like this in whatever pillow or mattress or blankie that you put on the ground. So they will start here by the fine muscles. They will start following things with their eyes. So you could roll a ball slowly in front of them and then you will see they're gradually following this, okay? Most probably they will lose it in if it crosses their midline, if it goes across their middle, they will lose sight of it. This only happens at 4 months where they will be able to follow the object across the midline. They will also hold on to objects. So here they'll have a rattle and a bottle and whatever toy is in their cot. At 6 months, Raking grasp, you know, a rake has, it almost looks like this. Look in the top right corner. They would try and take things, but with the whole hand. They look like they're raking something. It's called a raking grasp. They will also transfer objects between hands, so they can put a bottle in the one hand and try and put it in the other hand. So they will be transferring it from side to side, bottles, toys, whatever. At 9 months, they will start using the crab pinch. This is this one. That is their pincer grip. And they will use 2 or they will use 3 fingers, and they will try and hold things here. At a year, you will see that they will use the 3 pincer grasp, and they love thick crayons. So give them a crayon and a big piece of paper, and they will start making ticks with the crayon marks on the pages. Other things to take into consideration with these babies are their reflexes. We have a social smile. They start realizing that if they smile, you smile back. They become so adorable at this age. When they kind of coo to get your attention, give them attention. The morrow or the fright reflex is if they scare, they pull their legs and their arms up like this, which is exactly what should happen with a child who has a fight or flight reflex. The rooting one is where if the mommy rubs against the cheek, they will turn to try and find the dummy, the bottle, or the teat. So that touching there is called a rooting reflex. And then the palmar reflex is the grasp one. It will either be the raking one or the pincer one or the smaller pincer one. That's the palmar grasp that you will see. So those are the names of the reflexes that are developing in this baby. And then something that's quite important that you can measure regularly, you will see the doctors will also measure the side of their head, how much they weigh. But when they're a year, their birth weight should have tripled and their birth height should have increased with 50%. If not, we are looking to identify missing milestones. I hope 2 months to a year is clear. All right, so here we are, 18 months to 5 years. Over here, we have exactly the same chart: speech, gross motor skills, fine motor skills, and others. I'm saying it once again. If it's not on the date, he's 3 and he must be able to do this, there's nothing wrong. Some children have a little bit of a delay, some are a little bit faster. Well done for those that are faster, and let's work a little bit harder for those that are not. Does not mean they need to see a doctor, there's something seriously wrong. We are looking for the missing milestones. So about 18 months, we have 10 to 25 word vocabulary. By 2 years, they have 2-word phrases, and they have around about 200 words that they can say. If you let them speak, you will understand 2 out of the 4 words that they say, approximately. And when I'm talking about understandable here, it must be understandable to a stranger, because mommy knows exactly what they're talking about. If auntie or anybody comes to visit, if they speak, they will understand 2 of their 4 words. Okay. At 3 years, 3-word sentences. You see 2 for 2 years, 3 for 3 years, 4. So it's kept to the age. 3-word sentences, and you will understand more of what they're saying. So 3 out of 4 in the speech you'll understand, and it will be understood by a stranger. Identifying colors. Here they really can be able to, here they'll talk about colors, but here they'll be able to see it and identify it. You'll have full speech understanding. All of their speech is understandable for anybody else. And then at 5 years, 5-word sentences, and here they will count with ease. They will count before this repetitively, but here they will count with insight. So they can count it forward, backwards, loud, soft, with objects, 10 plus, right? Now, gross motor skills, here they start running at 18 months. They're not doing the comrades. They don't run very far. It's not walking, they're running. They can climb stairs. I don't know if you've seen this, but when they climb stairs, they climb 1 step and then the other foot goes to exactly the same step. So it's 1 foot, 1 foot, 1 foot. That's how they should be climbing at 18 months. Here they should be jumping on both feet. So they must be able to jump on both feet. Here they should be climbing upstairs with alternate feet. So they're now climbing like we climb, 1 foot up, next foot to the next step, next foot to the next step. Okay. And then they would like to start riding at 3, a tricycle. That means a 3-wheeled bicycle, tricycle. So 3 and 3. Here's a good time to start introducing the tricycle. Here they hop on one foot, and we have to practice a lot, hopping left, hopping right. And here at 5, there's a lot of more coordination. So they can skip and gallop and do all those things. And here they can walk backwards with ease. You will see all of these things the teachers will start introducing, because it's not about getting to the destination first. It's about the journey. Seeing how many of these milestones we can really lay down and develop before it should be in place over here. Fine motor skills, here you must give them blocks to stack and not Lego. I'm talking about blocks that can easily topple over. We're talking about 3 blocks that they could put on top of each other here with a tower, and here they love spoons. They want to start feeding themselves. Here they can stack 6 blocks and in a tower, and they can copy a line. Here they will stack 9 blocks in a tower, and here they can copy a circle. And what's important is they will begin somewhere and they will end there again. So they don't end anywhere else. They have learned to begin and start a circle. Start and end at the same place. Here they will use a fork and a spoon, and they will be able to copy a square, which is not that easy. Here they should be able to tie their shoelaces, and we will see that they are starting to do triangles, and this is not an easy feat because they've got to match, and that means that the lengths have to be the same. So yes, they know their shapes, they've recognized their shapes, but when it comes to the challenge of drawing, we can't criticize a child of 4 that's not totally able to do a triangle yet. And that is why when we are teaching, we must know the developmental milestones, what the body can do before we can expect it of the child. Other things, by the age of 3, this child should know their gender. Are they male or are they female? They should know if you ask them, how old are you? I am 3. And then at 4, their birth height has now doubled. And there's imaginary playmates. They have my donkey this and my little friend that. Okay? At 5 years, they can completely go to the toilet without any aid, 100% independent. So they can flush, wash their hands, pull up their own zips, tie their own buttons, everything. Independent grooming, they like to dress themselves, they can bath themselves, they can comb their own hair. So this is the journey to reach our destination. So these are a few of the milestones that I wanted to bring under your attention. We'll do more milestones in other sessions, but for now we've done speech, gross motor skills, fine motor skills, and here we did a few of the reflexes. Good. Why babies should crawl. So this is the right way a baby should crawl down here on the picture. I said it was right because they are on all 4 hands and knees. So 2 hands down, 2 knees down. So babies that bum crawl or are sliding backwards or are slipping on their tummy, their muscles aren't in place and they are not developing the way they should. So what could you do? First thing is, for a baby to learn to crawl, he needs tummy time. Put him on his tummy. And if he cries and he moans and he's uncomfortable, try and make it comfortable, but don't pick him up. He's got to learn to be on his tummy. So many mommies, when baby cries, you try and take the cry away, you pick them up, and they don't spend enough time on their tummy. So the core muscle doesn't develop, and they can't pick their body up because the muscle and the back and the spine is too weak to pick them up. And also because they're not moving, they are growing overweight. They are becoming overweight. So they have all these little folds and rolls. You know, these little Cupid dolls that we used to have with all those rolls. Babies at this age have a tendency to look like that, especially if they're not crawling. And the heavier they then become, the more difficult it is for this spine that can't and the core muscles that can't to push this body upright. So let's see what, if they crawl correctly, what could happen and what it will affect later. So physically, it boosts gross and fine motor skills and movement. So obviously, all the fine little, if they are crawling and they come across something small on the floor, their fingers are going to want to touch that. They've got pincer grip now. We saw that developmentally at this age. So they're trying to pick it up. So it's developing the fine muscle skill. Besides that, if you look at the distance from the floor to the eye here, that is our reading book distance. We keep our book here and we read almost 30 centimeters. we read this distance. So it develops the eye for reading as well. And then also, this distance is what we would use working with our fine motor skills, threading, tearing, crumpling, building a puzzle. So crawling in the right direction and in the right manner is very important. It builds posture. Posture is the way you stand and sit so we don't slump down, which then, of course, builds the backbone strength because it's got to keep the whole house standing, and the core muscles, which keep the head and everything in place. And then it eventually prepares the spine for walking. You will see that these children that crawl properly walk faster and more steadily. They don't fall down as much. Visually, I said, discovering distance and placement assists with near and far vision. So they've got to guess. I've got to bypass this table standing over here. So I've got to estimate and guesstimate my visual distance from this so that I could bypass it. So it helps the child with refocusing of the eyes. And then it also forces the eyes to adjust to work together. So both eyes are working together, which is a connection that has taken place in the brain. It develops later skills such as catching, driving your car, copying words from the board, and as I said, reading. So if a child does not crawl, physically he'll have a delay in his motor skills, his posture will not be right, and his spine will be too weak. Visually, he's going to struggle to refocus. He won't be able to have both eyes work together always, and he will struggle catching, driving a car, copying words from the board, and reading. So just crawling has already affected all of these things in their developmental milestones. Then spatial, it improves the child's problem-solving skills because they understand where they are in relationship with the world around them. Discovering the distance and placement of objects, which we need for math skills to see this is near, this is far. And when we start doing geometry at a certain stage, we're looking at angles. So Pythagoras' theory and all of those theories start here with crawling. This new brain path, or a viola as it's called, that is formed through trial and error makes a connection in the brain so that this child can navigate around things and obstacles. So people who normally bump into stuff and aren't very good drivers, they didn't crawl for very long, or they still haven't embedded this knowledge or connected dots in the brain. So all of this could be a problem. Problem solving could be a problem. Distance placement could be a problem. If the viola hasn't found out how navigation works, there will be lots of obstacles in this child's way. So crawling is crucial. And then the fourth one we're looking at for crawling is the mental development. Right and left brain need to be in full communication. We have to encourage these two sides to always work together. Crawling is a huge step to get us there. It causes the left and the right brain to interact. These hemispheres interact. So we have bilateral movements next to the body. And that causes the brain to connect. It builds self-confidence because they feel they can get something on their own. They can navigate around obstacles. So this child would have a bigger tendency to want to take risks. And children who haven't crawled would be more scared and less willing to take risks. So just by crawling, all of these factors could either be a plus or a minus. So that's why I wanted to say to you, crawling is crucial. So what can you do, baby, on the tummy? And if you've seen these balls, they have little spikes around them. They're very soft. They're very good tummy balls. If you put the baby on the ball and you hold the ball and you rock the baby over the ball, it's like we have a big gym ball and we're rocking over it with our face down and our body down in the crawling position. It arches and supports the body and the back, and it allows the baby muscles to develop so that they can move forward. Tummy time, tummy time. Rolling, crunches on the ball, all of these will help. And if they're sliding on their bum, try and maneuver them around and with toys and things, coax them to come and follow the right direction. Okay, so those are the reasons for maths and for visual ability, physical strength, and for mental integration that children should be able to crawl properly. Right. What happens if the milestones are not met? And now these connections in the brain are not made. So we're going to look at two of them. The first one is emotional milestones. So you will see this child's all over the place. And then what can we do? So highly emotional and self-centered learners, those children that cry for nothing and it's all about them. The next one is the daydreamer. You can see you've lost him. He is on another planet. He's looking out the window, or not even. He's just staring into the abyss and he is not with you. Those with serious dependent behaviors, they're clingy, they hang on you, they cry when they can't see you, you can't separate, they've got separation anxiety. And then those who confuse the fantasy realm or fantasy play with reality, they think they're Superman. And now every day for the next 20 weeks, they have to wear Superman clothes. So if the emotional milestones are not met, we struggle with a child that has 60 shades of how I feel today in 5 minutes flat. And because there's an emotional instability, nobody knows how to manage them. So they avoid them. And this causes a lot of distress in friendships and bonds that should have been built because they are now over dependent. They are on their own planet. They are crying or very angry most of the time. Everything is about them and they don't know the truth from fantasy. So the first thing is consistency. Moms and dads, when disciplining a child, it's got to be consistent. You must be kind, but you must be strict and you must be fair. You can't, because you are upset, punish them into the 70th degree. And now this child, you're taking away this and you're taking away that, and they must sit in the corner and then they must do this. After the first punishment, they don't understand what the rest of it's all about. They can't even at that stage remember why they're being punished. So it's important to be kind, strict, fair, and consistent. Find timeout sessions if that's what you do in your house and you've decided on, and make sure that your husband and yourself are on the same page, because children are very clever and they will manipulate whoever says yes the most and the easiest. So make sure that you have rules in your house and you stick to them. In our house, we weren't allowed to drink any gassy cool drinks or stuff before 10 in the morning. No way. And even now that they're older, they will still abide with those rules. So it's something that becomes part of their core functioning and how they think of life. They must be helped to distinguish between what is really true, what's a reality, and what they think happened. Because these emotional children, that I feel you thought this about me, the person didn't even hint at feeling that way, and they will remain this as an adult. They will always look at something. Somebody just looked at them in the wrong fashion, and now they don't want to talk to that person again because that person hates them. Because they can't discern between this is what she meant when she said it, and this is what I heard. I'm going to give you an example. A married couple, they've been married for 30 years. In the beginning, they would go to Wimpy and they would drink a strawberry milkshake just when they were married. So on their 30th anniversary, they went there again, sat down, and the little Wimpy bought his wife a milkshake, a pink one, and he looked at the Wimpy menu and he said, sure, 45 Rand for a milkshake. What did he mean and what did she hear? He meant, it's increased. It now costs 45 Rand. She heard, I'm not even worth 45 Rand. After 30 years, 45 Rand is too much for him. So this happens when emotional milestones have not been met. So when you realize your child is hearing something else, you need to have that communication skill to say, let's use our words. How do you feel? And they must reflect how they're feeling, and then an explanation. And it's something that if you know it works like this, that you could share with your teacher so that your teacher could practice it in the class as well. When they're daydreaming, the best way to get them out of a daydream is to get them to move. So ask them to perform a small task for mom or for dad. Give them that anchor that I spoke about in the non-dominant hand so that they just can remain focused again. So the daydreamers are actually easy. You just need to get them to move for the brain to release and then they are able to do what needs to be done. Teachers have a lot of needy children that are in their classes. I would say to the parents, sometimes you set the bar too high and you set the goals too high for them to reach, so they feel they never achieve anything and they don't know what they're moving towards. So for a child that is very needy the whole time, you have to use your words and then also explain to them what the goal is. What is your objective? What is it that they must reach? And the moment they've reached that, give them rewarding, confirming words. Say, I'm proud of you. I know it was difficult. So you reflect a little bit, but you did it. You were able to go to the toilet all on your own. Well done. So words, 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 good communication, simple goals for them to achieve, lots of reaffirmation, filling up the emotional piggy bank. And then many of these children are very confused about fantasy and reality. So we don't realize that they know more things than they should know. So if they're mixing this up in real life, we have to kind of, like when we're working with older children, we have a rubric where we say something is measurable, there's an outcome. You could say to a child that has his Spider-Man clothes on, for today, you can be Spider-Man. But not even Spider-Man can be Spider-Man every day. You will see Peter Parker has to wear his normal clothes and he goes on with his life. He can't be Spider-Man the whole day. Neither can you. It makes sense to the child's brain. He can refocus and he's not confusing the two anymore because there was an explanation. Children sometimes just need an explanation. My son, when he was in grade 1, the teacher actually put a box down because he couldn't keep his own belongings. Everything was always everywhere. So he said the chance that it's Jaden's clothes or shoes or whatever lying around is so big. Here's his box. You can just check it at the end of the day. And then I sat with him when his report card came, and on there it says he cannot keep his possessions. He doesn't take care of his personal possessions. And I sat down with him and I said, do you know why you didn't get a big smiley face or a star here? And he said, no. And I explained to him, I said to him, because you don't take care of your surrounding and the teacher gives you marks for that. And he said, does she score me on that? Do I get marks? And I said, yes, never again. Till the end of matric, never again did I have that problem. He just needed a reason. Some children need a reason. Maybe your child is wrapped that way and needs a reason. So give your child the proper reasons. Almost done, guys. Now, what happens if these milestones aren't met? This is our second one, and we're looking at the touch sense. So first thing is, this is our skin. It's made up out of layers. It's one of the biggest organs in your body. It covers your whole body. And the way you perceive touch and feeling could be different from your baby or your child's. So you need to know that here are lots of glands and capillaries, and there's hairs, and there's different follicles here. And then we have the epidermis and lots of nerves and the dermis, and all of this tissue here sends messages to the brain so people can feel their surroundings. So this is one of the things we focus on. And why do we focus on this so much? Because it impacts their lives for so long. The touch sense is a milestone that cannot be met when touch is not comforting. You know, we like being touched. We love being massaged, or when somebody is massaging our head or just rubbing our hand. Not all people experience it like that. For some people, it's a threat. It's petrifying when people touch them. So because those nerves are oversensitive, they are firing the whole time. The whole body is anxious and in a state of anxiety and panic. Is, please don't touch me. Please don't touch me. You are actually hurting me. That is why we can reprogram the skin. We do baby massage with babies, and with the older children, it's very good to teach them that not anybody is allowed to touch you, so you lay boundaries in that area. You buy some of those car wash gloves, those with the little squiggly worms on. They're so much fun. You give one to the learner, you have one, and then where you rub, they must rub after you've asked permission. And after doing these massage exercises where you are rubbing and they are rubbing, these nerves calm down. They realize you're not there to harm and to hurt them. So it's good to do the massaging. on a regular basis, because it will calm the skin, calm the dermis, the nerves, the epidermis, and then touch, and the sensation of touch will be different. What does this affect? Making friends, relationships, the feedings, what they're going to eat, and food because they're oversensitive, emotional stability, social and intellectual development, participation in certain learning activities. For example, I gave English lessons at a certain stage, and I had a little boy in my class who couldn't stand having dirty hands. He had OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. He washed his hands 1,000,000 times a day, and we had to work with Ponal glue. Now, all of you know Ponal glue it's a messy glue, and they had to do this activity with both hands. And he almost totally freaked out having to have glue on his hands and not immediately being allowed to wash it. So if these skin sensations aren't toned down, they have an impactful result that's going to be caused in this child's development at the end of the day. So you do get oversensitivity, and then you get impaired sensation where they don't feel anything. Those mommies who've had cesarean sections, you know, where they touch you, the feeling is gone. It feels different now that the nerves aren't there. There are some children that you can bump them as hard as you want. They don't even know that you bumped into them because they don't feel. You could tickle those sensations also by baby massage and using those gloves. It will reactivate the nerves to say somebody is touching me. So the younger you start, the quicker you could lay the foundations. So to make sure that they're making friends, that their relationships are sound and solid, that they're enjoying the food that they're eating, that they're able to work emotionally, and that they aren't crying because I can't touch this stuff and freak out easily, and helping them to stay focused on learning activities. You need to make sure that the whole body skin is in play. You will also see touch-sensitive children will have a tendency to want to hold things in their hands, so the back of their labels, they will put hair into their mouth, they will play with their hair, they will play with their clothes. Then even for those children in your class, teacher, have your gloves and play and do your therapy in class. It doesn't happen immediately. Didn't happen immediately for it to be programmed wrong. To fix the pothole, repetition, repetition, make it again. After every bath session, mommy, let's have a massage session where we do creams and lotions, and daddy can also help with that. So that is the sense of touch and what could happen. Now here's our last slide, the UNICEF curriculum manual. We are supposed to be using the elders. Here are our 6 elders. We call them the Vroeë Leerontwikkelingsareas in Afrikaans and early learning development areas in English. So our first subject, learning area, is well-being. And then we have identity and belonging, which is E2. E3 is communication. E4 is exploring mathematics. E5 is creativity, and then E6 is the knowledge and understanding of the world around me and technology. This is an endorsed program by the Department of Education, so you can go to this HTTPS link up here and you can go download your own. So quick recap. Today, we are created for success, but we are programmed by the world to fail. We are beautifully and wonderfully made. This one keeps on getting me down. The next one is the key factors to having an emotionally stable child is looking that the piggy bank is full and it's not bankrupt. Be careful what you put in is what you're going to get out, and that your words will definitely hurt, and the way you look at your child and your body language as well. And then parents that don't want to identify something, how are the teachers supposed to address it? Overprotectiveness and underprotectiveness, those helicopter moms and those that just don't care. Underestimating and overestimating the child. Be careful what you say. Your words have value for them. And then fixing the potholes in your needlework. It takes time. You can go fix night fears, fussy eating, touch and taste therapy. You can look at ADHD and let them eat green foods. We looked at the developmental milestones, and we're going to be looking for the missing milestones from 2 months to 1 year. And then 18 months to 5 years. And then We looked at why babies should crawl and how it affects their physical, visual, spatial, and mental abilities. What happens if they're emotionally a little bit not on par, and how is it going to affect them? What is it that we can do, being more consistent, setting easy goals, checking our outcomes, communicating, reflecting, giving them the anchors that they need. What happens when the milestones aren't met when it comes to touch and taste and sense? We said that it affects their friendships, their relationships, the way they eat, emotional stability, intellectual development, participating in learning areas. So it's important to go and do therapy with your children on a regular basis at home and in class. And thank you to UNICEF and Department of Education for our ALDA curriculum. And we will be doing an ALDA course as well. I don't know if we'll be doing one during the lockdown, but we'll, as a company, will definitely be looking at other courses. I really hope that you found this informative, that it answered a few of your questions. You're welcome below to leave any questions that you have. I'll answer what I can answer. And then please, the more people we can invite onto the group that's in our network of early childhood development, the better, because then we can get information disseminated easier. So please do invite them to join us, and then I'll be saving this one as well onto the group so that everybody can view it from there. If you wanted the slideshows, once again, you can contact Eloise. I have posted her email on the group below, and then she will help you with that. And then stay safe, social distancing, please, and keep well. God bless. And remember, you are beautifully and wonderfully made. Thank you, and have a wonderful day further.